The first light of dawn spilled over the dust-blown town of Clearwater, painting the gallows in gold. The air was heavy with silence, the kind that presses on your chest and makes every breath a reminder of what's about to be lost. A young woman named Clara Hayes stood barefoot on the wooden platform, her wrists bound, her face calm yet defiant. The town called her a thief, a liar, a traitor, but in truth she was only guilty of standing up to the wrong men. Her pale dress fluttered in the morning wind, and her eyes, though tired, still held a quiet flame of pride. She had lived her life with dignity, and if this was how it ended, then she would meet death with that same grace. Sheriff Doolin read the charges in a voice that echoed through the silent crowd. But even he couldn't look her in the eye for long. The people murmured, some in pity, others in judgment. The clock on the saloon wall struck 6. The hangman tightened the rope, and as the first rays of sunlight reached Clara's bowed head, the earth trembled with the thunder of hooves. Out of the horizon came a lone rider cloaked in dust and legend. His name carried through the West like the whisper of a curse. Jackson Cole, the most feared gunslinger alive. A man who had never missed a shot, never bowed to law, and never spared a soul who crossed him. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as his black stallion stormed into the square, stopping dead at the foot of the gallows. The air was thick with disbelief. The sheriff's hand hovered over his revolver, unsure whether to draw or pray. Jackson's cold blue eyes swept the scene, resting on Clara, and in that instant the world seemed to still. "Untie her," he said, voice deep as thunder. "She's coming with me," the sheriff stammered. "She's a condemned woman, Jackson, you know the law." But Jackson only smiled, slow and dangerous. "Then the law can hang itself." "Because that woman," he said, pointing to Clara, "is my bride." Gasps broke through the crowd. Even Clara's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen him before. Yet something in his gaze felt like fate itself had taken the reins. The sheriff's lips trembled. "You can't just claim her." Jackson dismounted, boots thudding heavy on the ground. The hangman reached for the lever, but Jackson's revolver was already drawn. So fast, no one saw him move. The hammer clicked and the hangman froze. "Try it," Jackson said softly, "and you'll be the one dancing in the wind." The tension was a noose of its own, choking the air. Clara watched in stunned silence as Jackson stepped onto the platform, his coat brushing against her bare feet. He cut the rope with one smooth motion, then took her hand like she was a queen, not a condemned soul. "You're free now," he murmured, his voice low enough only for her to hear. "But you've got to trust me." And though she didn't know him, though every instinct screamed she was stepping into another kind of danger, she nodded. Because in that moment, danger felt safer than dying alone. Jackson swung her up onto his horse before anyone could move. "You'll answer for this, Cole," the sheriff shouted. "Maybe," Jackson replied, "but not today." Then he spurred his horse, and together they vanished into the dawn, leaving the town choking in dust and disbelief. For miles they rode without a word, the desert stretching endless before them. Clara's heart pounded, not just from fear, but from the strange warmth of his presence. Finally, she found her voice. "Why did you do that?" she asked. Jackson's eyes stayed on the horizon. "Because no innocent woman hangs while I'm still breathing." She frowned. "You don't even know me." He gave a small smile. "Don't need to. I know the kind of men who run that town. They hang anyone who threatens their power. You were just brave enough to stand in their way." Clara blinked, tears threatening to fall. "I didn't steal the gold. I was only trying to feed the orphans at the mission." Jackson glanced at her then, and for the first time his hard features softened. "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I came." By midday they reached a canyon where Jackson stopped to water his horse. Clara sat in the shade watching him move, strong, confident, every motion calculated. "You lied," she said suddenly. "You told them I was your bride." He looked up, lips curving into a teasing grin. "Would you rather I told them you were my prisoner?" She couldn't help but laugh, a sound she hadn't made in weeks. "You're impossible." "So they say," he answered, tossing her a canteen. Then his tone turned serious. "We can't go back to Clearwater. They'll be hunting us by sundown." Clara hesitated. "Then where do we go?" Jackson looked out toward the horizon, eyes reflecting the dying sun. "Wherever the law won't find us. Maybe somewhere you can start over." Days passed, and somewhere along the dusty trails and starlit nights, something unspoken began to bloom between them. Clara found herself drawn to the quiet strength beneath his roughness, and Jackson, who had spent years living by the gun, found peace in her kindness. Around a fire one night, she whispered, "You risked your life for me." Why? He stared into the flames for a long time. Because once someone risked theirs for me. I didn't save you to own you, Clara. I saved you because you reminded me of what I lost. Hope. The words hit her heart like a bullet, gentle but deep. Tears glimmered in her eyes as she reached for his hand. "Maybe we both found something we thought we'd lost," she said softly. By the time they reached the distant hills, Jackson was no longer the feared gunslinger in her eyes. He was the man who'd given her life back, a man who carried scars deeper than anyone could see. In a quiet valley, they built a small cabin, hidden from the world. The law might still come one day, but for now, peace had finally found them. As the sun set behind the mountains, Jackson stood behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Guess I wasn't lying after all," he whispered. "About what?" she asked, smiling. "Calling you my bride." She turned, eyes shining, and for the first time in her life, Clara Hayes felt free, not because someone saved her, but because someone believed she was worth saving. And if you loved this story of redemption, courage, and wild love in the Old West, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales that stir the soul. Because every week we ride into a new story that'll keep your heart galloping till the very end.